guys, what's up? It's ItsAnnaLouise, and today's video is finally the one on breeding. And I kind of decided for a while that I wanted to wait to film this video until I knew that my babies were doing great and that I was definitely on the best track possible before I did make this video. And it did give me some time to gather more information and just make sure that everything was kind of where I thought it needed to be. So today's video is really important because ever since I started the breeding process, I have gotten so many questions, literally so many, about how to breed betas and if I could give any kind of tips and stuff. And I knew then that I really wanted to make a video, a very detailed video, an important video on the subject, because beta breeding is not easy at all, and it costs a lot of money, and it takes up a lot of time, and you need a lot of space. So I'm here in my little workroom. It's just a laundry room, nothing fancy. It's where I keep some of my jarred betas. They're literally right here. I've got a brine shrimp hatchery in the back. And I use this room and another room, and literally ample amounts of space. But basically, one thing is, just right off the bat, beta breeding is not like live bears, like your platies and your mollies. That is something that's easy. They just spawn all the time. They get pregnant. They have their babies. Like, it's literally just a kind of a natural, easy thing. Betas, and now this is something that a breeder even explained to me, and it makes so much sense. Betas are like humans when it comes to breeding. You know, some betas, if they don't like each other, they will not breed. Like, if the female don't like the male, no. If the male doesn't like the female, no. And you literally have to have things set up a certain way, a certain temperature, a certain water level. Like, everything has to be a certain way before, it can even be done properly. And this is completely different than, like I said, the easy stuff. And it's a lot harder too. Even when I started, it was a lot harder than what I thought. Even when I started, I totally started it wrong, and I had researched for months, literally, but I got the best advice from awesome beta groups of, different beta breeders, their advice, and then from that, putting everything they said together and going with what I thought would work best for me. And that's kind of what you have to do. Definitely research it online, research it on Google, but don't just go by off of what you read. Actually ask people, because that is where you're going to get the most help, genuinely. But that's just one thing, just to start out, that you have to realize is it is not easy. And I failed literally a lot before I got my babies. I failed at first with setup and just, the way I was going about it. And then second, and a whole bunch of different pairs that I tried too. And then second, I failed. The very first spawn I had died, and you would have seen the video about how I did have them, but then they died not even a week into their life. So it took me, after one try of actually having babies, to get the ones that I have now. And it was very stressful along the way too, because I really wanted it. But don't get me wrong, at all, breeding betas is without a doubt one of the best things I have ever done. Literally. I mean, it's up there in the top 3 best things I've ever done. And this is something I want to do for the rest of my life now. Not obviously as a main job, but as a side job and as my hobby. This means the world to me. But like I said, it didn't come easy. And another thing is, I'm an adult, so I use my money. I know that I have time because, I've graduated, I'm out of college, and I do have 2 years. I'm going to move on and further my education. That's besides the point, but it is online, so I have more time. And being an adult, I have money, and I can have more decisions. As to where you're younger and you have to rely on your parents for this kind of thing, it can be harder, and especially if they don't realize how much really goes into it. And there's honestly so much that in this video I'll probably honestly even leave some stuff out, but I just really want you to know how much money it costs, because whenever I read everything that you have to have, which like I said, I'll probably leave some out, you'll see how much money it really is, and then all the time, because you have to spend hours with them every single day doing work. And yeah, like I said, it can also be frustrating if you don't do things right, or if you don't research, because like I said, they're like humans, like they're difficult. But anyway, like I said, this is the best thing I've ever done. One of the top best fit things. And I definitely, like I said, I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm glad that I have inspired you guys to want to do this. I just mainly want you guys to know it's not, I may make it look easy, but it's really not. So that's what I just want you guys to know. Like, really, really research into this. Make sure this is something that you can handle right now before you go into it. But I am really glad that I did, inspire you guys to want to do this. But I made a sheet on my laptop, so I'm going to get that and we're going to start. Okay, so I have my list of what you need, and from when I made this, it's probably even increased since then. So if I have forgotten anything, I will try to remember it and then add it in. But this is just a list of what you'll need. A 10-gallon tank, sponge filters, an air pump, actually multiple air pumps, live plants, airline tubing, like quite a bit of airline tubing, brine shrimp hatcheries, not one, but you need multiple, lots of aged and primed water, aquarium salt, magnifying glass, that one's optional, a heater, and a really good heater, an adjustable one, turkey baster, eyedroppers, Rapashi gel, Spawn and Grow, Hikari First Bites, let's see, mason jars, or just any kind of jars, and I mean like around 50, like tons of different jars to actually jar them at some point. You need bloodworms, microworm cultures, buckets, and a lot of time. And all these things do cost quite a bit of money. That is just a list of things, and as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm trying to also go through some other things that you would need, but I'll be thinking on it as I'm talking. But you would also need a net, I know that. And also, I do everything separate. Like, all this stuff isn't just stuff that I've had. I've gotten it all separate because I do not want to mix germs or anything that could be happening with my other betas with these babies. Like, I don't mix the things. So that's that. So I have step by step on what to do preparing for releasing your pair together, because you can't just put the two betas together and expect them to spawn and have babies. So first you have to set up your breeding tank with the water halfway full and put the heater on one side, have it to like 84 degrees, have a sponge filter in it as well, but you don't turn it on until the babies are free swimming. So you do have to condition your betas for a week, because this makes sure that they're in the proper health conditions that they need to be in, and the female is full of eggs, and they have a lot of energy so that they can go through this process. And by conditioning your betas for a week, that means that you feed them only live foods, you feed them 3 times a day, and you feed them literally as much food as they will eat. Like, you just stuff them full of bloodworms. Bloodworms is what I recommend. So, let's see. So you need to have them look at each other and have them like have a good view of each other for at least 30 minutes a day. So I had my female in a jar, like a mason jar, and then like I would reveal her to the male, just sit her by the tank for 30 minutes each day. And then when you begin to like let them see each other, you need to put like a half of an Indian almond leaf in the breeding tank so that the male can like, start to make the bubble nest. And he will do that like once he sees the female. If he's interested, then he will start making the bubble nest. And if you don't have Indian almond leaves, which you're going to need anyway, you can also use like a piece of styrofoam. So then you also need to clean the waste out of the breeding tank every day, all up until you put the female in, because when you do that, you really don't want to disturb them. And then after 1 week, if the male has built a bubble nest, or even if he hasn't, then you need to release the female in, because sometimes they won't do it until you put the female in. And that actually happened the second time that I tried the breeding, which is the successful time. So also what you need to do is like right when you put the male and female in, like right before you put the female in, you need to have your microworm culture ready, because cultures take a while. Like, it's not just something that just happens like in a snap of the fingers. Like, it takes a while to do, so you need to go ahead and have that ready. And they'll chase each other when you release the female with the male. Like, if they nip a little bit, as long as they're not like pulling each other's mouths, then that just is natural breeding behavior, and that will happen. Breeding can take up to 3 days. Just don't disturb them. Just let them do their thing and keep it dark, because if you do disturb them, then they'll see you and it will distract them, and then they may not breed. But like I said, it can take up to 3 days. Mine took like, I think a whole day, a day to 2 days. So once you see that you have eggs, which you will be able to tell, like you'll see these little white things in the nest. Now that you have them, after you're sure the parents are done spawning, get the female up and move her out, because she will eat the eggs. So yeah, Penny, my female, the mother, actually did that on the first spawn. She started to eat some, and I didn't see that because I was at school at the time, and so when I got home I had to hurry up and remove her, which of course that was the spawn where they all ended up dying. I genuinely think them, tongue-tied, something was wrong with them. But anyway, you want to remove the female fast. So babies will hatch within the first 48 hours of being in the nest. Normally, honestly, it's like literally spot on to that. And the male should constantly be tending to the nest. Like when the eggs are there and you're waiting for the babies to hatch, and when they hatch, the male should like constantly always be under the bowl nest and always tending to the babies. So after the babies hatch, they get nutrients from the yolk sac, which is what they're created, which is what they're connected to. And the male, like I said, will be tending, will be helping, because they will fall out of the nest. I call them bouncing baby bettas, because they just kind of bounce up and down because they can't really swim yet. And they will fall out. That is normal, but the male should be picking them back up. But once the babies are free swimming, which means that they are swimming horizontally and not vertically, then you will remove the dad, because then he will lose interest and then he will eat them. Now, for once your babies have hatched, you should definitely have your microworms hatched and all ready by that point. And once they are horizontally swimming, you will barely put the end of a toothpick or just something like that into the microworm culture, because you can't see those worms. They are so tiny, and you will literally overdose them on it if you do not like literally barely tap it. And like I said, you won't be able to see them, and just really be careful, because you can overfeed them and it can pollute the water. You should have also had your BBS, or brine shrimp hatchery, going by the first time when you saw eggs, because it takes brine shrimp 2 days to hatch, and they're only good for 2 days with nutrient wise. So it takes 2 days to hatch. They're only good for 2 days, and that's why you need to have more than one constantly going. But you should have them done or up by the first time you saw eggs, and it takes, like I said, 2 days for them to hatch. So you really have to keep up with the time to make sure that they will be ready for the fry, because that's one thing that the fry easily die of is starvation, because you have to feed them 3 times a day, and literally they will starve and they will die. So after about 2 days of free swimming, you want to start feeding your fry the brine shrimp, and you can use an eyedropper to start out with this. Basically all you do is like suck them up and put them in, and with feed. So my battery died on my camera, and it's probably gonna die again, but where was I? So when you do feed the brine shrimp, it can make the bottom of your tank very nasty. And the babies are so small, and you have to be so careful when doing this. But use the eyedroppers to spot clean the bottom of the tank. I did this every day. I did wait a couple of days after they were hatched, like maybe around a week, maybe a little less, and then I spot cleaned the bottom every day, because you don't want ammonia to rise, nitrates, nitrites. All that is very bad for your fry and can cause them to die because your tank is polluted. So you need to feed your babies 3 times a day, once in the morning, once, I do mine at dinner time, and then once before bed. But I go to bed late, so just, you know, like, do it when you think is best. Just make sure it's 3 times a day. And you can tell when your babies are full when they have a big pink stomach. It's pinkish orange, and it gets that way because of the worms, the brine shrimp. So you will literally see a big ball, like their stomach will be in a big ball, and it'll be pinky and orange. So continue to spot clean every day until they become 2 weeks old, and then when they become 2 weeks old, you can do your very first water change, and that is very important. It is so important, literally, to clean your water every day or every other day. You can kind of mix it up, because the males, or just basically in general, hormones will be released into the water that will stunt growth and cause them not to grow well. So you also need to at least do it 50% because of the growth inhibiting hormone. You need to do it at least 50% because of the growth inhibiting hormone. So when doing a water change, you'll do the drip system to remove the water. So basically you'll put it down into the sponge filter because you do not want to suck up the fry. Okay, so my battery died again, and then I had to get ready to go to work. I've been at work all day, and then my preschoolers had their graduation, so I had to go to preschool graduation, and now I'm finally home. Like, I literally just walked in the door. So anyway, let's finish. So basically, after you get the water out, with the drip system, to fill it back up, what I personally did, and honestly, if anything, it makes the fry stronger, I put water, the aged water with prime and salt, into the microwave and do it for 4 minutes to get 84 degrees, which it would be different for you, so make sure you use like the thermometer, but I do it that way, and I have like the whole entire time, and it works perfectly. And I pour it in slowly so it's back to the temperature, because the drip system, in my opinion, takes so long. And by long, I mean very long. And by doing this, as long as it goes well, I definitely recommend it because you can get done faster. And like I said, if anything, it makes the fry stronger and more adapt to not getting hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like, more adapt to things, like more immune. So anyway, that's what I do. And then around 1 month, that's when I start introducing other foods, just whatever they can eat. You kind of play that by ear. I tried to, you know, like introduce the Spawn and Grow. That was my first thing, the gel food, because it was really hard to wean them off of live food because they are so used to chasing things, and like that's just literally their natural instinct. So they kind of have to be weaned off of the live food, although of course you still feed it, but basically trained to eat things that are not living. So the gel food worked well. And then also I have like little dry freeze, yeah, Daphnia, bloodworms, and mysis shrimp. I sprinkled that, just about anything that they can really eat to have a variety, because a variety is definitely better for them and will help them a lot more. So those are really my main tips. And with making brine shrimp, like the hatcheries and just different kind of stuff like that, I will make separate videos for those just so I can show you guys if you have any questions. Everything was so hard for me at first, and now it's like a snap of a finger, so easy. So simple for me, and it will be that way for you, I feel like, if you get used to it. I couldn't figure out how to do the brine shrimp thing for like hours. It took me hours just because I was so nervous, because once you have these babies, you want them to live, you know, so it's just like you want to make sure you do everything right. But anyway, I think that I really have everything kind of covered. When they get older, I did add like a cichlid rock. You want to add things in there too to help their mental stability, to encourage things. And so yeah, other than that, I really do think that I covered everything, but just most important, the grow out tank, which I started out with the 10 gallon, which you can do because you need a grow out tank. So if you have a 10 gallon, you can definitely just leave that, them in it until it gets time for the jars. But anyway, mostly important. Definitely it takes a lot of time, a lot of money, and if you don't think you have the time and money for it, especially, you know, if you're younger and you're having to rely on your parents, then definitely wait, because you don't want these babies to die. And you know, so because obviously that would be so sad and bad. And I have had only 4, I think, die of mine, and they were ones with deformed bodies, crooked spines, unfortunately, and I had to euthanize them, which was so hard on me. Literally, Snapchat fam knows, it was just extremely hard. They got to where they couldn't swim. So there are some sad things like that, and I never wanted to have to do that, and I had to. So if you don't want to do stuff like that, it's not for the faint of heart, so you may not want to try breeding. But like I said, other than that, I think I pretty much have it covered. Add me on Snapchat because you see a lot of stuff having to do with breeding on there. All my fish, my other animals, and everything like that. It's ItsAnnaLouise 20. And other other than that, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a big thumbs up and make sure to subscribe, which you can do by hitting my face right there. And you can watch another of my videos by clicking right there. And I hope you have a great day or night or whenever you're watching this. And I'll see you guys in my next video.